What is my reaction as of right now when it comes to Filecoin, even though nothing I say is financial advice? Well, I'll say overall, I am not disappointed because not too long ago, FIL, which is Filecoin's utility token, the market cap was slightly below a billion, and then now we see it at around 2 billion. So I must say, I'm not disappointed when it comes to that. However, sometimes you like to say, well, okay, it's still far ways away from where it once was less than a year ago when the market cap was around 4 billion. Totally aware of that, but if we take a look at it, ever since, quite a good amount of altcoins did pretty okay back in December of 2024, or should I say around January of 2025 at that time. Ever since then, many altcoins have been having a pretty big pullback. FIL is no stranger to that. Again, it did kind of what a lot of other altcoins did. However, the way you take a look at it is this. Seeing how FIL had this pretty okay recovery, just as of late, right? Despite a lot of altcoins, generally speaking, not doing the best, I actually find it very impressive. Now, what caused this? Personally for me, I can't control the market in any way. However, my kind of perception is that maybe sometimes people just don't want to sell anymore because, again, the way you take a look at it is that, yeah, the market cap was slightly under a billion, right, not too long ago, but when was the last time we saw that? I mean, if we take a look at back even in 2022, right, the market cap was almost under a billion, but not really. So, I mean, we kind of haven't seen those levels in quite a while. So to me, I think that kind of showcases that at times maybe there's just going to be a point where people just don't want to sell. Now, was that the point? Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me considering how I haven't seen below a billion in market cap in a very long time, actually. I mean, even if I take a look back again in 2022, the market cap was still slightly above a billion at one point. So the way you take a look at it is that when it comes to something like this, my point of view is that I just don't want to give up because I feel like I haven't seen an altcoin season during this cycle. Now, I'm not telling you to do anything, by the way, but this is just my perception. And when it comes to this, what will exactly the point be where FIL starts stabilizing? I mean, that's beyond my control, but at the same time, I am still thinking about hypothetically the concept of, let's say, arguably $50, which is around a 17x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, is around 35.5 billion. Now, I get it's still a ways away, but my point of view is that I haven't seen an altcoin season yet, and it doesn't mean it will happen, by the way. I mean, that's just a hypothetical scenario, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me just because I do like the fundamentals when it comes to Filecoin. I mean, when I take a look at Filecoin, it is focused on data storage. And if I take a look at it within this space, there really isn't that many, I think, kind of, popular projects that are focused on data storage. And I don't find that many to be compelling to me. Now, just a fun fact, by the way, if I take a look at arguably something which I would consider Filecoin's competitor, something called Arweave, that actually also did pretty okay as of late. And why is Filecoin and Arweave doing this? Now, again, maybe there was kind of this point where people just didn't want to sell anymore, but who knows? But my point of view is this, even despite that, when it comes to Filecoin, right, I think arguably it is the most popular project within this space of data storage. I'm not saying overall, but I'm saying just in that data storage space. However, I think beyond Filecoin, it's still kind of like who knows who's going to be that number two. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, people often consider, Bitcoin number one, Ethereum number two. But in this case, there hasn't really been a solid number two, I think, within this space. So if I take a look at Filecoin, yes, there's competitors like Jasmy, there's Arweave, there's Storj, or should I say Storj, but then it's spelled like STORJ. Sometimes people call it Storage, sometimes people call it Storj. However, there's also something called Filecoin. But if we take a look at that, again, let's just count it, right? Jasmy, Filecoin, Storj, Arweave. That I think is pretty much 4 popular competitors beyond Filecoin. Like, I don't think that's that many. In other market sectors, there's like 20, 30, 40. I mean, there's a lot. But in this case, Filecoin doesn't really have like 10 or 20, I think, really that many compelling options in terms of its competitors. So I find it pretty unique, especially when I consider how the data storage market is predicted to reach nearly $800 billion in value according to Fortune Business Insights. Now, will that happen? I mean, who knows? It's just a projection, right? But at the same time, I find that pretty impressive if it were to maybe even happen. But then again, data storage is not really such a kind of talked about market at times. But then just considering how Filecoin doesn't really have that many famous competitors, I do seem to like that when it comes to Filecoin, which is why I haven't given up, generally speaking, as well, because I just like how it's in this market sector, which really isn't that popular in the grand scheme of things, but then at the same time, it doesn't have that many compelling options to me. So I do like what I'm seeing there when it comes to Filecoin, because if for whatever reason there is attention, or should I say good attention for the data storage space during an altcoin season, if there's only like five that are pretty famous, I mean, like the way you take a look at it is that the sort of attention might not be spread out too much, right, in the grand scheme of things, if that was the case. As opposed to, again, another market sector out there which may have like 20 or 30 famous options, then it's a different case. It might be spread out a lot. So then this is why I kind of like the way I view Filecoin in terms of its positioning, I would say. And I just haven't given up because, again, I don't think I've seen an altcoin season during this cycle. Sure, I mean, FIL with a bunch of other altcoins were doing pretty okay less than a year ago, back in December of 2024, also around that January time of 2025 for some cases in other altcoins. But ever since then, we haven't really seen much, right? And again, I don't think that was even an altcoin season, so I haven't given up. I'm still staying patient. But ultimately, I cannot control the market anyway. The only thing I can do is control myself. Even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, what I do is that I literally dollar cost average into my favorite projects once a month, and that's it. So it's not, I'm trying to find the perfect moment, all this. I'm not going to be able to. The only thing I'm doing is literally dollar cost averaging once a month, and that's it. And I'm just waiting. Now, what's going to happen along the way, that I'm holding? I can't control that, but I'm just doing that again once a month, dollar cost averaging, waiting, and just holding. And that's pretty much about it. But that's what I'm going to continue to do anyways, because I do like Filecoin's kind of positioning, arguably, I would say, and also I do like the data storage space. So I'm going to still stay patient, and sometimes you like to say, okay, again, when is there going to be an altcoin season? However, I'm not going to be able to answer that because I'm not going to be able to know when there is going to be an altcoin season. Like, for instance, even if I pulled up a price chart, I drew a random triangle, or I drew a falling wedge pattern or something like that, there's no way, like, the market's going to care about what I have to do on that price chart, right? Is it going to look at that and be like, oh, wow, Lee the captain did this on the price chart, let's do this? No, it's not going to care whatsoever. The only thing that I can do is literally just stay patient, hold, and that's it. And I'm not telling into anything, but that's just personally what I'm doing with the projects that I am a fan of, that I do like. For me, it's kind of simple. If I like a project, I research about it. And again, if I still like it, then I'll just dollar cost average. That's about it. However, beyond that, all I can do is stay patient, and that's it. So I'm going to be waiting. Now, of course, if there's going to be something that comes out when it comes to Filecoin in terms of what they did fundamentally, in terms of the news, maybe there's an update or something like that, I am going to be talking about it. But in the meantime, I must say that I am not disappointed with what I'm seeing with Filecoin so far, even though it's still ways away from where it once was less than a year ago. But still, a lot of altcoins are also in that same position. So yeah, I'm just going to still stay patient, hold, and wait, and that's pretty much about it. But I just wanted to make a video real quick explaining my reaction to seeing Filecoin's utility token so far, and just how it has not disappointed me, considering how, it's had a pretty okay recovery, even though it's not the best. But I still find it pretty okay for me nonetheless. I want to say thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.